Imperialism facilitates colonialism. It is a string that holds colonialism to neocolonialism. Or is a software that runs slavery, that runs colonialism, that runs neocolonialism.
Let's take that. Imperialism is the software.
A software that runs slavery, that runs colonialism, and that runs neocolonialism. Imperialism will say that, okay, since you have rejected my offer, I am taking it. Imperialism doesn't respect will. It doesn't respect autonomy. It doesn't accept no for an answer. Imperialism is egalomaniac. It is me, 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 and me.
This year, one of the things I'm doing is bringing you not just stories or history, but with touch of facts, not from the oral traditions, but from academics. So these are people that have exhumed a lot of knowledge, and we are here to share. So today, I'm here with Ernesto. Like, everybody knows him, Ernesto. I mean, if you're in Ghana and you're on Twitter and everywhere, you should know him. But we are just here to talk about something different. So, hi, Ernesto. Welcome to.
Good to see you, Chu.
Good to see you too. So, we've been having not quite any long conversation, just a brief moment. And today we are here finally. So, I read on your profile, you identify yourself as Nkrumah.
Nkrumahist.
Yes. So, who are you and what is Nkrumahist?
Wow, that's a very broad place to start from. But like you rightly mentioned, my name is Ernesto Yabua, and I'm the leader of the Economic Fighters League. And you've asked who an Nkrumahist is. But our organization identifies as an Nkrumahist organization, which simply means that we all adhere to the values, the principles, and the thinking generally of Ghana's first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And we are able to do this by reading his speeches and writings and other books that he authored and things like that. And so by all the things that we read from him and identify in our times, we also stand, And so when we say we are Nkrumah, that's basically what we stand.
Okay. So everybody in Ghana knows of 6th of March 1957, Ghana Independence Day. So I want us to go back into certain popular terms that are lurking around and try to find out, like, what is the actual meaning. You talk of neocolonialism, slave trade era, and then we talk of Pan-Africanism, like these terms, and then colonialism, and imperialism, like all these terms. All right. I want us to take them like step by step. And then first of all, I want us to look at the slave trade era, like the arrival of the white man on our land in Africa. Was it good or bad?
History provides a more complex answer. And so we cannot look at it in terms of good and bad, because the moment you look at it from the perspective of good and bad, you are conferring a moral ground on the situation. There was nothing good about colonialism to start with.
Okay.
And so to even think about it within that spectrum is not academically sound. So this kind of thinking has pervaded for so long a time. You go into our textbooks and then you find there are topics like the positive effects of colonialism. Ask yourself, would you find in those who call themselves Jews, would you find in their curriculum, their textbooks, the benefits of the Holocaust? I mean, they tell the story that over 6 million of them, went through a harrowing experience. They call it the Holocaust. And yet you won't go and find anything like that there in their textbooks, talking about the benefits. Yet when you come to ours, you find it in our textbooks, and sometimes you even find academics justifying it. Of course, it's the same academics that have found a way of injecting it into the curriculum, into our textbooks. And all students in Ghana, from primary to SHS, are examined on that, framing, with the justification that there are positives to every situation, and therefore we have to look at colonialism not just as a negative, but then from a positive outlook on the spectrum. So it is something that we have to fight.
Okay.
Our organization, is fighting aspects of it. And I believe that what you are doing also takes the same cause of fighting it from a different perspective. And so it has to end, at some point. We have to curtail that and be on a common ground and say that colonialism was bad, it should never happen again. Slavery was bad, it should never happen again. And so there's no positive, to talk about it. There's some who say that, but we are here at Kolebu. Had it not been through colonialism, we would not. Kolebu was not built for us. It was built in order to enhance, exploitation. People tell you, what about the harbors that were built? They were not built for us. They were built to enhance exploitation. If you look at the railway tracks that were built, if you look at the roads that, existed at the time, all of them led to our ports, to, our airport and all of that, just so that it facilitated the taking away of our gold, the taking away of our bauxite, the taking away of our human beings. So how do we talk about positive? In that regard, they were just enhancers of the exploitation that our people went through, and it should never be classified as such.
Okay, so last year, I went to every castle that was ever built in Ghana. Those that has even, broken down, like you can't see the edifice, you can only see I went to everywhere. I went to slave market that don't exist. Different places. Even this year, I discovered a slave market that has never been discovered in the northern region.
Wow.
And doing that, the story became boring. It became boring to me because from castle to castle, it was the same thing. So now, you being an academic studying this, what would you say was the playbook for slave trade? Because the mode of operation is the same. I've been to Togo, I've been to Benin, I've been to Nigeria, different places. The mode is the same. So what would you say, being academic, what would you say, what's the playbook for slave trade?
The playbook is simple.
Okay.
It was for our exploitation. It was and to facilitate that exploitation, we needed to be dehumanized. Our identity had to be fractured. We had to be taken away from our center of our being and turned into people who either do not know where they are going or even where they are coming from. And that has been our being. When you talk about colonialism, it is a system of domination, not just in your, social life, in your politics, in your economics, in your science, in your religion. Every aspect of your life is dominated. In your laws, And so today you ask yourself, what laws govern Ghana? Where does the power of our laws come from? And you find that we derive our laws from our colonialists, England. And so the English court sits down, makes a certain ruling, and then you find our lawyers, referencing them here in cases that may not even have any social, political, or cultural bearing to ours. And yet it is admitted. So this system of domination is what has led other academics to argue that then, in order to reverse it, let us decolonize. So decolonization comes in not necessarily to, let's say, okay, some time ago we're walking barefoot, and so let's go back to walking barefooted. It's not that. It's actually about the transformation. And so, yes, you can wear your shoes, and our ancestors from time immemorial have been cosmopolitan in their thinking. We embrace knowledge that is outside ours if we find that knowledge helpful to our cause. Centuries ago, even before Christopher Columbus would, in quotes, discover America, he didn't discover America. There were people in America, there were the Red Indians, but then there's a propaganda history that they have been able to permeate or shoot across the world, that Christopher Columbus, discovered America. And so, starting from that false premise, many years even before that, Africans had their ships in the space called America today. We had gone there, we had interactions with, ancestors there, or people there, and all of that. And at no point in these voyages did our ancestors ever feel the need to dominate somebody. At no point.
So would you say that if you don't dominate somebody, somebody will dominate? Is that the case, right? Is that the case?
I mean, there are historical facts to point to that. I mean, even talk about this space now called Ghana. Amongst the various ethnic groups, there were clashes, there were wars of conquest, and all of that. Those happened. But then, if you read Akosua Pebi's book, Indigenous Slavery in Ghana, you'll find that indigenous slavery, was not the same as the transatlantic slavery that took place.
Okay.
Indigenous slavery, even though it was a certain form of domination, it was more of appropriation. Let's come together and become one. Let us expand. Don't be on your own and I on my own. So come and be with me so that we can expand. So you have, slaves like Sakura, who ended up buying freedom. So you could actually...
Who is Sakura?
Sakura is one of slaves in, ancient history, who is recorded as being able to buy her freedom and even rising to become king.
Okay.
So all these examples will point to you that, okay, our type of slavery was not one that dehumanized.
Okay.
It was one that preserved your human dignity and courted your collaboration,
Okay,
in order to be able to advance or grow together. Okay. Today you go to certain palaces and you'll find that the ahengua comes from a particular lineage. Historically, you may find that lineage has not necessarily been part of the family. But then there is adoption. And so now they have become part of the family and then they grow together. And so within the chieftain, in that institution, you find that each and every household has a role to play. Those who, work on the drums, those who work on the arms, those who work on the, palanquin, whatever. So that's how distinct indigenous slavery was. It was not violent. It was not, one that dehumanized or took out one's. There was some ethics to it.
So just what you're just talking about, right? Currently, there is a wave moving around, and this wave is between the Ashantis and the Gombes. There's a school of thoughts that the Ashantis has a treaty with the Dagombes, and the Dagombes were to provide Ashantis with 1,000 male slaves and 500 female slaves yearly. And for the Dagombes to achieve that, they employ bandits like I think Babatu and the rest, and they were doing that work for the Dagombes. And then at a point, they went to attack the Busa people, and the Busa people defeated them, and they celebrate that now as the Fiok Festival. Now, the Dagombes also says that they were never colonized or nothing like that happened. They have questions like, if it did happen, under which king, which time, and all that. And I know that these are academic materials in the Institute of African Studies in the University of Ghana.
Yeah.
And you are a professor from that school, or becoming a professor from that institute, right? Like studying deep. So what is it? Like, what is the real truth? From an academic perspective.
Well, I think there are a number of studies around the subject.
Okay.
That one could refer to. But it's not conclusive.
Okay.
And that's the nature of academia. You almost all the time find one contestation over the other until there is some certainty. And then what's later on becomes what is usually known as historical fact. But we are not there yet with histories of such nature in terms of being able to arrive at, okay, so this is a historical fact. We are still within the space of coming out of the myths. Even take one of the most studied, indigenous histories in our space, Asante history. And it's not over. Did a stool really come from heaven and landed on somebody's lap? Is that really what happened? If it cannot happen today, what is it possible that it happened then? So there's some bit of mythology that is associated, that historians all facets within that spectrum, archaeologists, psychologists, all of that, have to find a way of sieving out what then the truth actually is. And so they still remain contested and highly, debatable in many of the contexts. Okay. Of course, we can mention some, scholars here and there and then, but I would rather stay off, those areas.
Yeah, but is it like in the books that the Dagombes were giving slaves to their scientists based on a treaty that was signed?
I wouldn't know that because it's not my specialization.
Okay.
I wouldn't know that, but of course
you've heard of it.
You could of course take the youth leader of the Achime Boakwa youth movement. He wrote a letter. His name was Sefakia. he wrote a letter to J.B. Damgwa decrying, how they needed to obtain education and things like that and advance the Achimebwakwa, space. Now, in J.B. Damgwa's response, at the time, this was at the height of Nkrumah's free education policy. And the slavery that you've talked about, there were slaves that were taken from, or persons that were enslaved. I think that's a better way to put it. That nobody born a slave. It's persons that were enslaved with origins from the upper regions, upper east, upper west, and the northern region, brought into the Ebwakwa plantations to farm and age the cocoa, industry.
This was after slave trade was abolished.
This was after slave trade was abolished. But there many of them remained. And that's basically what they were doing. They were now converted into indigenous, workers, farm workers, but paid very meagerly or sometimes even nothing. And in J.B. Damgwa's response to Setafia, he said that they should make sure that they don't allow Nkrumah's free education policy to materialize. And that's, if it does, they stood the risk of losing everything. What
is everything?
Okay, so let me quote him. He said, "If we allow Kwame Nkrumah's free education policy to materialize, we stand the risk of losing all our Alodia rights."
Alodia right.
Alodia.
What is Alodia right?
So Alodia rights here would include the privileges that they enjoy, the privilege of being served by others. Now, if free education was going to be allowed and not resisted, all these people who, by the historical, telling, had come into those spaces and have now been converted into
absorbed into the
family and not being paid as they should and working almost for free. That's is a kind of
they're going to be
privilege, that J.B. Damgwa and co felt that they enjoyed and therefore was instigating Setapia to resist Nkrumah's free education policy, because once education came to them, they were going to feel that, well, we are better than this, or increase our wages, or else,
now I'm a teacher, I can't farm.
Exactly. So those kinds of things. Okay. So one could say that colonialism brought a violent aspect, or owned a violent aspect in us, for us to go to the extent of dehumanizing others, or feeling that their dehumanization was necessary for the benefits that we enjoy within.
Would you say that after the white man introduced colonialism, the blacks like it more than the white man?
Well, what's his name? This guy. Okay, I'd remember his name, but quite a number of academics have talked about that. Basil Davis and all of them have actually decried that. And they talk about how the African nationalists were not necessarily fighting to end colonialism as a system, but then their aim was to own it, to be the ones who were
being the helm of affairs,
and then perpetrating that violence on the
and enjoy the proceeds.
of the people enjoying the proceeds and them all of that. There are some who have argued that, extensively. Well, there's this guy, how is it that I've forgotten his name? It's on my lips, to come. So they've argued that Charlie, these guys came in just to occupy spaces, and you actually see it today. And that's a sad thing. It's not just with the early nationalists like Ufe Buahi and the rest who, saw the need to appropriate the colonial space and perpetrate it themselves. In modern Ghana today, tell me we aren't seeing it. Take our 1992 constitution. Tell me it doesn't facilitate the exploitation of workers and the people of this country. Take just a few days ago, Speaker of Parliament's Bagbin, of all the ideas that could emerge in one's mind as a leader, what he's thinking about is the building of a new parliamentary complex. After spending so much money in this current location, where Parliament is. Cocoa farmers are being shortchanged. Their prices have been reduced. Such a loss. And this is what some of our leaders are thinking about. So it tells you that really we haven't progressed.
Okay, so who are really, the leaders of Africa, or the president of our countries? Are they really the president of our countries, or Leopoldo's effect is still in place?
It's still in place, and that's what Nkrumah calls neocolonialism. And so here in his works, Neocolonialism, he explains it as the fact that, politically, they would seem in charge. You have a black president, you have black ministers, you have black MPs. So we are in charge. But then economically, you would find that our policies are dictated from elsewhere. So you go to the ministries right now, Ministry of Finance, they are under the full supervision of the IMF World Bank. It is what the IMF actually says that they do in terms of go to MMMDAs, and then you find for yourself that they are all over the place. Go to hinterlands or outskirts, and you find these NGOs. What are they doing? Many of them are actually there to facilitate the interests of their governments, the American governments, the British governments, the Australian government, the Japanese government, the Canadian government. Exactly what are they doing there? And so in all of this, you see a state that is not in charge.
Okay, so when you mentioned the NGOs, I think 2017 or 2018, I did a research, and I realized that, I also saw an article that pushed that research, that if there are 3 NGOs in Ghana, 2 of them are operating in the northern part of Ghana, and the people are still poor. And one school of thought was saying that they give with the left hand and take with the right hand. Like, there is just something else. I just made mention of this NGO. So what has the NGOs got to do with neocolonialism?
Now, they are the instruments by which control. We talked about colonialism being a system of control and domination.
Yeah.
NGOs are part of the systems by which they are able to enhance their control and grip in order to facilitate the exploitation of.
How does giving someone food, shelter, scholarship, and all that facilitate?
It creates domination. It creates dependence. Oh, America brought me rice. Therefore, America does no evil. America does no wrong. Then these guys are there in the space. You don't know what information they are taking out. They come sit with you. You think they are your friends. Every conversation, they actually record it. It's going, and we've seen it over and over. I mean, look at their periodic declassified CIA records. And tell me these are not spies. Talk about WikiLeaks and how, I mean, some of our leaders lose their guard and go and sit in front of them and spill almost everything in their heads about the country, about their plans, about where they are going up and everything. So they are able to, as it were, steady us and know how to contain us. That's the whole point about colonialism. That's the whole point about neocolonialism. And so, whereas colonialism was more direct and the white man was here and all of that, neocolonialism makes it indirect. This time it is not a white man here. It is my father. It is my mother. It is our uncles. It's our friends. It's the one of us who sits there and then facilitates agreements that go against us.
Is it a case of black skin with a white mask?
Yes. Who wrote that book? It's the name. The name keeps skipping my mind, but
Something is a French.
yes, it will.
I read that book in the name.
He's the one I'm trying to quote, but it will come. But then yes, that's just what it is. So our leaders are not for us. They are not working in our interest. They are advancing the cause of Europe and America and the West or wherever, but certainly not ours. Because if they are facilitating our interests, what is going to happen to them will not be different from what happened to America Cabral. It will not be different from what happened to Gaddafi. It will not be different from what happened to Sankara. I don't even want to mention Kwame Nkrumah because, I mean, one will say, oh, but you are Nkrumah, so why won't you mention Kwame Nkrumah?
Okay.
But the fact that it's been done to all these people, Patrice Lumumba, points to a certain determination to see that we do not develop or we do not have leaders that advance our interests and our cause. And that's the neocolonialism bit, to ensure that, okay, your own people are there, but then they don't facilitate your interests. Okay. How on earth do you go and sign an agreement on your gold and say that it is better to have less than 5% or let's say 10% when the gold actually belongs to you? I mean, what school reasoning brings anybody to that conclusion? But do you find our leaders justifying it? Recently, there's been the issue of the one in Cape Coast. What's the name? It's another resource where they are trying to. Oh, today I'm losing my train.
Canada's.
No, there's this resource that they have discovered in Central Region.
Okay.
And that one too, they are telling us that 10% is better. Meanwhile, if you look at the devastation it is going to cause, I mean, the people, once they mine or they begin that project, no farming activity can happen on that land. You can't even build on it. So what is this? And yet, when it came to negotiating, this is what our leaders are saying, that 10% is okay and that's the best we can get in there. So let the resource be there. If you are not going to get value for it right now, leave it there. Let us, I mean, the next generation come with a superior idea and then see whether it is even worth mining, or also leaving it there for another generation to consider what to use it for.
Okay. So what is imperialism?
Lithium.
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 Okay. Lithium. Yeah, sure. But what is, we've spoken about colonialism, slavery, neocolonialism. What is imperialism?
Okay, so imperialism, in my view, would be the systems or the mechanisms in place that facilitates that kind of thing. So it could come from, and you see it in the relations that I established. Okay, so Oyibo comes to the land and then says that, okay, I see that your people are strong. So take this mirror and give me one person. This one person I'm going to put to work to do X, Y, Z for. You agree. The next time Oyibo comes, gives you 2 mirrors, says, give me 10 of your people so that I use them to do whatever I want to do. And then you do it. So that's process. What is facilitating that kind of thinking? What is it that is making Oyibo think that you are to be dominated and therefore you should collude with me in order to get your people to be dominated? Otherwise, I am going to come for you yourself. Take a good example of Trump. Trump doesn't even hide it. Say that, oh, I'm going to take over Greenland. That's an imperialist mindset. Wants to take over, wants to dominate, it wants to subdue. That's an imperialist mindset. It says that, oh, Canada, we have to annex Canada so that it becomes part of America. He doesn't believe in their freedoms. He doesn't believe in their rights. He doesn't believe in their sovereignty. He just sees it as a piece of land to take. But anybody who has studied Trump would know that this is how he's operated in his business, his real estate and all of that. He would take land that doesn't belong to him, fight you off, clear you out of the space and take it. That's a mindset of imperialism. And so imperialism facilitates colonialism. It is a string that holds colonialism to neocolonialism. And so that's what imperialism is and slavery.
So it's like the imperialism is the subset of all the...
Is a subset or is a software that runs slavery,
Okay.
that runs colonialism, that runs neocolonialism.
Let's take that. Imperialism is the software.
A software that runs slavery, that runs colonialism, and that runs neocolonialism.
Okay.
As a string.
So now take this, give me this. I say I don't want. What will happen?
Imperialism will say that, okay, since you have rejected my offer, I am taking it. Imperialism doesn't respect will. It doesn't respect autonomy. It doesn't accept no for an answer. Imperialism is egalomaniac. It is me, 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 and me. And so once anything opposes the me, you come in contact. Take what Trump is doing with Venezuela. What's Venezuela's crime? Venezuela's crime is that they are sitting on the largest oil find in the world. America says that we want a chunk of that, resource. Venezuela says, don't worry, we don't mind about that, but whatever the agreement, it has to benefit our people. America says, what is this? We cannot take these terms from you. We want to take like what we have done to Ghana, 95% of their oil, of your oil resources, and then you have nothing to say about it. It is the constant resistance by Venezuela that has led to his kidnapping. So that's how imperialism operates.
But if you have all this and then you can't protect yourself, then maybe can't everybody become imperialist in their country? So that I am just a mirror of you, because in as much as this is going on, there are places that they don't take it to, because you know that personally, I don't respond to threat. Like if I'm doing anything with you and you put a threat on the table, then like I'll wait to see your words, like what you can do.
What you can do.
Do you get it? Like that's my personality. So why is it that why should a president be afraid? Like why? Like what is this unique thing about imperialism that we cannot get it off? Because I think I read some articles that they also referring to Kwame Nkrumah as an imperialist. So what is it about imperialism? And if what they were saying is true, was Gaddafi also imperialist? The people, because it would take an imperialist to be afraid of an imperialist. Like I've seen my shadow, and I don't want to care. Like I want to be the only person with this kind of quality. Maybe based on what you are saying, maybe I may think there's also there may be a good side of it, and that good side is what they don't want anybody to have. So if someone comes up and we are all imperialists, you cut, I cut, do this, I do this, then let's take this one out.
Yeah.
What is it? Maybe if you can throw more light on it.
So it will be interesting to know, what the person said to argue how Nkrumah is imperialist. Because Nkrumah was not an imperialist from everything that I see. Gaddafi himself wasn't an imperialist. All he sought to do was to unite Africa. And that's what Kwame Nkrumah also sought to do. Let's unite and govern as one, one government, one currency, one parliament, one standing army, and things like that. How does this make, any of them imperialists? I think that it's...
So what does it make them that makes the imperialists afraid of them?
Resistance. You don't have to be an imperialist for the imperialists to feel you are a threat. Just resist. It is a resistance imperialism cannot take. It's like, why are you resisting me? I must have access to... It's like a rapist. It's like, I must have access to you, whether you say yes, whether you say no. I must get what I am looking for, and then that's it. So imperialism is egalomaniac. It's about me,
like a rapist.
That's it.
Is that not too strong to say imperialism is like
it? There's no better way to describe imperialism than that. It is barbaric. It's a barbaric thinking formalized and framed in relations between or amongst human beings, not respecting your rights, not respecting your autonomy, not respecting your sovereignty, but rather telling you that, well, force is, might is right. And so if you are not going to, if we're having a conversation, I am simply doing you a favor. And that's, this conversation shouldn't even take place because you are mine. And then that's it. And even where a conversation takes place, it's like, okay, so do this and do this and do this. So long as you follow my instructions, then you can exist. Otherwise, I would end you. That's how imperialism operates. And it is that framing that has gone into international, what we call international law and things like that. Take the United Nations. It's not a free and just organization. It is not an organization that does not accord imperialism a space. It does. Take the Security Council. Why do we have just 5 countries there as a permanent, state? And then these 5 states have the power of veto. So the world can say we are going to the left. Just one of them can come and say, no, we are all going to the right. And then that's it. That's a streak of imperialism there that's the United Nations retains. And so the world must move from that to one that respects the autonomy and independence of each and every one of, those states. The right to be who you are, the right to be what you want to be. It's something that imperialism doesn't respect. And that's why organizations like ours, would keep fighting and resisting. And that's also what imperialism doesn't like.
Okay. So do you think that President Mahama's fight for reparations, right, from the West, like the people who came to enslave Africans and all that, do you think it will happen?
First of all, I think it's a good push, but I'm yet to see how textured the demand is, whether it's just a demand for money. Because what was done to us doesn't just end at money. So, okay, give us 50 billion to compensate us. And then we take the money and then what? What about the psychological damage that was done to us? What about the technological injustice that was done us? Look, they deprived us of our engineers, of our mathematicians, of our metal workers, of our new discoveries, people who are going to invent within the African space. Our best and our brightest were the ones that were actually taken from us. They deprived this continent of that. So I would want to see a more textured demand, not just into finance, but into how we are able to resolve the technological gap. So technical knowledge, technical assistance, like into more of those. Let's enter within academia and let's see what knowledge exchange can take place.
Okay.
Or productions can take place within a certain period of time. Then we are making the real demands. Otherwise, if we reduce it to money, paper, they print the money.
They just print.
So you just print, and
there's inflation.
And then exactly. So it has to be more textured than the demand for money.
Oh, here's another thing that I don't know the academic side of it, but about 12 million enslaved Africans that were taken to Europe and America and the Caribbean, about 4 million, that's like 1/3 went to Brazil. But you hardly hear people talking about that. And they only talk about if the thousands that went to America and the other places, where like the chunk of the people went to Brazil. And I don't think many Ghanaians or Africans even know that majority of the enslaved Africans went to Brazil. Why does it look like Brazil has been hidden from this whole thing?
Okay, I think that first of all, there's been some programs that has happened or has been injected in the past that sought to restitute the situation. And so in Brazil, for instance, there's a group called the Tabons. And some time back, there were intentional efforts by the Ghanaian states to cause their return. And in places like James,
Brazil House.
Exactly. They had a whole program in place to embrace our brothers and sisters that had gone there. So you take the likes of Azuma Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Tabon, Brazilian origin, But then today, when you mention Azuma Nelson, nobody will say Brazil. He's a Ghanaian brand. And so he's a manifestation of the careful integration that went on around that time to ensure that all those who had returned did not feel in any way that they were strangers or outside. I mean, in that sense. So I want to believe that it may also be because some of these works have taken place in the past, which is why it's. But then you also
America also sent people to Liberia.
They did.
So why? And they are even more than the people that came here. So why do people still talk about America and the slave trade and not Brazil and the slave trade?
Well, there is also the economics about it. When you stick Africans in America with that trajectory, the slavery, ancestry, and all of that, it is believed that the average African American is above the poverty line in Ghana. And so to the state that is looking for more resources to be able to advance and make progress, it becomes, it's almost commonsensical to look there and say that, hey, come home, organize programs for you, and then all of that. But then you also find that in terms of the racial discrimination, yes, Blacks in Brazil face serious discrimination because even on their televisions, you hardly see Black people, but there are Black people like you and I in Brazil, all Black communities and all of that. But that's, over a period of time, there's also been the policy of, for the lack of a better expression, quietening. And so a policy where the Black people themselves are caused fundamentally to have a shift psychologically that, okay, let me procreate instead with a white guy so that we can have a mixed breed. And then that appears to be the desired. You go to even places like India.
That happened in Argentina.
In fact, in Argentina, there was a systematic whitening.
Yeah.
Leading to, people were killed. When we say whitening, we're violent.
I was surprised they're talking about the soft ones because look at what happened in Argentina. It was
brutal. It was brutal. It was brutal. So the Black man, the Black woman everywhere in the world has suffered grave indignities.
So my question is, why it looks like the Black has suffered in Arab everywhere, like you just said, every part of the world, the Black is maligned and mistreated and is always suffering and all that. Why don't all Blacks come home to Africa?
It's not a simple question.
Where we belong.
It's not as simple as that. Now, if I told you to move from where you reside right now and come and reside at Kolebo, there are a number of considerations you would make. That where I am currently gives you certain access, it gives you certain privileges. Now,
is that not the thing for imperialism?
Not necessarily.
It's not part of the software.
It is part, but it is not part.
Okay.
It is not part in the sense that, well, you have people like Marcus Garvey, who had the Back to Africa movement or project. And so through his organization, that became like a major campaign where they were seeking that Africans in America,
let's go.
let's go. But Marcus Garvey himself never stepped a foot in Africa. Marcus Garvey was gathering the people to talk. So I'm saying there could be explanations for why others will come, and others will not come.
Okay.
But what Nkrumah sought to do was not to say, okay, come, because it's a complex question that requires a complex answer.
Okay.
And so it was not just come. He said, okay, so you are the 54th
generation.
54th state. And this 54th state is the diaspora. So Africa and the diaspora. Now, if you look at it in terms of that, that's a powerful constituency. There are Africans in Asia, that's a diaspora. There are Africans in the Caribbean, that's a diaspora. There are Africans in the Americas, that's a diaspora. There are Africans in so if you look at it like that, it's such a huge nation that carries alongside soft power.
Okay.
That then allows the black states or the African states to be able to conduct certain negotiations that benefits the African people.
Okay. So we've been hearing diaspora. What is diaspora?
Diaspora is simply home away from home.
Do you know the origin of the word? Or is it an abbreviation? Is it a coin word? Or
I don't have much information about that. So I would just look at it and forgive me, but I'm just making an intellectual guess on this one. In how I see it, that diaspora is just home away from home.
But they feel home when they come home.
So that should be a matter of policy in terms of how the states, and that's why I particularly haven't been happy with how the year of return was conducted. It was more of how do we exploit these people who are coming? How do we make more money? And so if you listened to the initial reports, the state was, we have made so and so million ever since, we began this program. So they looked at it as a money-making venture.
Okay.
Whereas it should not. If you are seeking to reintegrate, if you are seeking to welcome our brothers and sisters back home, it's a genuine approach will be seen in how you go about it. Why should, for instance, diasporans come and apply for citizenship?
Why shouldn't they?
Why should they? It's their home. Ghana is their home. Africa is their home. Why should you subject them to come and apply? No.
But okay, so here's another thing that we need to look at. Like recently, Speed came to Ghana, right? And he was given the Ghanaian passport. He's been trying to go to Iran, but because he's an American with American passport, he cannot go to Iran. But now he has a Ghanaian passport and he can go to Iran. So if they don't apply for the passport, like this typical benefit that like Speed is getting to go to Iran, and because of a Ghanaian passport, he could be able to travel to a lot of the Arab countries that don't like the Americans. So now, if the diasporas went apply,
I'm actually happy you cite the example of Speed. You see how Speed got his passport?
Yes.
Without even having to apply.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. Every African in the diaspora.
We know them, those who are interested.
Oh,
because I want to show again.
And let them come. You want to say, when I needed a passport,
yeah,
I walked to the passport office, I applied, and then I got it.
Is that not the same thing they are doing?
And so come. And when they come, first of all, you're not a citizen.
Okay.
And so they have to go through a process, and then that process requires that they submit, documents to prove their lineage and blah, 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 blah. And then when they have done that, they should be able to speak a Ghanaian language or an African language, or else they will be denied. Is that the process I Show Speed was taken through? No. So I'm simply
But a
saying,
Ghanaian language can be English, because English is not a Ghanaian language.
fine. But then I'm simply saying that they should not go through all the process. I Show Speed is a Ghanaian. Every African in the diaspora is an African. Whichever African nationality, choose your nationality, wherever you want to be, without being subjected to any process. If you want to obtain the passport of Ghana, take it. If you want to obtain the passport of Zimbabwe, take it. If you want,
Are you sure if you do that, are we not going to get a lot of convicts?
Are we saying all Africans in the diaspora are criminals? Is that what we are saying?
That's not what you are saying.
That is, so what are we saying?
I'm just saying that
These are one of us.
Yeah.
If we genuinely recognize them as one of us,
Okay.
then we should not be putting all these impediments in the way.
Another thing I would say is that, I've also worked with some of the diasporans, the Black Americans who come to Ghana and, and all that. And I can tell you that a lot of them don't respect us. I have worked with people that have refunded their monies to them. Because I used to also, I run a tour company that I take people on tour. Sometimes I refund people money to them in the middle of, maybe just at the beginning or something, because I feel disrespect that the treatment you are fighting against in your country, you come here and then you just bring the same treatment to me and see all those and one of the things I realize is that most of those people I have to refund their money to were thinking that Africans are poor.
And that they are doing,
and that the money, whatever money they gave you, you've already spent it. So you don't even have it to refund. And you usually get shocked when the refund is done, like instantly, without saying that I keep 10%, I just, and the refund is done, and they are shocked. So what I'm saying, I'm coming from a different perspective, where I feel like, okay, maybe the process should be a little bit softer, so that you need to show police report to show that you are not, you can't also take certain things in a way. Or you don't agree?
Even if the African in the diaspora is a criminal, Africa is home.
Yes.
Come back home. And they shouldn't face any.
Now you said that the laws are designed such that America will not allow you to try its citizens in your country and all that, right? So now, when these people come, they don't check their criminal records, and they have a dual citizenship, and they commit a crime, and they denounce your citizenship because the other citizenship will protect them. What then can you do?
If you are coming back, then you are coming back. What are the laws on, or the regulations on dual citizenship? Let us, they are equal to us, we are equal to them. There's work to be done on our side, those of us Africans on the continent. There's work to be done on our side, and there's work to be done on their side. For instance, we were talking about how they mistreat Africans on the continent. Some of them mistreat us also. So there has to be some orientation of sorts. When they were doing this this program here, the Year of Return, I thought that they would have spent some time to orient, let's say, taxi drivers. It was at the first point of call, actually. Right from the airport, a driver will have to chauffeur, our African brothers and sisters, wherever they are going, be it a hotel, whatever. And so you will rent that taxi driver that this is your brother, this is your sister who is returning home. And so a special welcome and also curtail certain behavioral tendencies, thinking that you are going to get some money from them, or you are going to exploit them because you are giving them the brony price they don't know around, and therefore like those kind of, it is those things that hurts them.
But the brony price is everywhere.
But that's what I'm saying.
When you travel to anywhere, they take you brony price.
But there has to be some orientation. In our case, it's different. If I went to America and the Obroni, the white man, did me an Obroni price, it's different from an African in the diaspora America coming back thinking that, oh, this is home where I'll not be exploited, where I'll not be discriminated against, where I don't feel endangered in any way. And yet that first guy, the taxi driver, swindles him. That hurts. I remember there was this time the granddaughter of Bob Marley was in Ghana, and she's my friend. So she returned from one of the forts. People want to call it castles, but it's a fort because they were meant to subdue us. They were meant to dehumanize us.
Okay.
She returned and she was angry. Why? Because the guide said very unspeakable things. We were the ones that sold you. We did this, we did that, we did this to you, we did this to you, we did this to you. And I'm like, how do you put a tourist guide that goes with this kind of narrative? Good. I mean, there was indigenous collaboration to the criminality of slavery.
Yeah.
But it is not all of us that committed that crime. I mean, even break it into the various ethnicities. And tell me that between the Asantis and brothers and sisters in the upper regions, who were the beneficiaries of slavery? Who connived with the white man to sell, the black man and the black woman?
Who did it?
Asante. Extant history points it out. They were the beneficiaries of their carnage. They were the beneficiaries of the slavery industry. That's how do you call. So if you say that all of us, and some time ago, I think former President Kufuor, he was then president, and in his argument against reparation, insisted that all of us are guilty because we contributed to that crime being committed. But it is not true that all of us were involved. It is against the historical fact. It doesn't match the records. The records actually show that some people were victims and others were perpetrators.
Okay. So in Ghana, if you divide Ghana into two, the South and the North, which people were the victims and which people were the benefactors?
Oh, it's complex. So it cannot also be straddled along both South and North. But let's take it case by case. And then you would see how, some in the South were victims and others in the same South were perpetrators. Some in the North were victims, and then some in the same North were perpetrators. You would find,
So in my travel, I realized that in the coast, it looks like they were helping slave trade. But when you go to the North, they were repulsive. So all the...
But the North were, because Salaga market was a huge slave.
Yes. So yeah, Salaga market was a huge slave market. I'm not even talking just in respect to Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, and the coastline about. You see that you only hear of slave repulsion victory in the North, not in the South. So like in the North, like there you have the Busa and then you have the slave defense wall and all that. You go to, even if you go to Benin, like they did have some statues in the south to celebrate King Guerra and some others, they're not all those sides. So it looks like in the southern belt, the people were facilitating, and in the northern belt, they were rebelling. I'm trying to, in general, not to say that they didn't facilitate, but in general, you are likely to see this common phenomena. So I'm trying to get they understand it. So
let's look at it this way. I think that religion can partly explain the dichotomy you have given between the South and the North.
Okay.
You'll find that the North was mostly dominated by Islam
everywhere.
And then the South, Christians.
Okay.
And so you'll find that even in the Islamic text, it gives more power to its adherents to resist injustice, to fight against thugs and bullies and all of that. Whereas Christianity blunts that aspect. I mean, there would always be slaves amongst us. I mean, as the Bible would say, slaves, be obedient to your masters. So Christianity, in a lot of ways, encouraged or was used to encourage the subjugation of Africans. Whereas in the Islamic text, you actually find more texts that fights back, that resisted. And so it's, for me, not surprising that in the northern regions, of the African belt, you actually found more Africans in resistance to slavery than in the South, where more Africans were actually involved or embraced, how do you call it, their docility or their slavehood. Within that spectrum.
Okay. Now, if you transition that quickly into modern day, another effect or another thing that is common, in this same neighborhood is that the southern side enjoys like peace, very peaceful, whilst the northern side they always have something to fight about. So is this still same religion thing that caused, what is it?
Well,
or is also as a result of the colonial structure?
That's also a bit more complex. So you take within the Islamic folds, there's a Sunnis, and then there's a Shiites, and the Shiites are more radical and fundamentalists in their perspective as compared to the Sunnis. So here in Ghana, you would find that the dominant Islamic base are actually the Sunnis. They are more tolerating, more accepting of others, and do not see it as a sin to engage with. And so you find certain communities where there's a church right in front of the church is a mosque,
and there's a beer bar at the corner.
And they are all coexisting peacefully. That looks more like, a Sunni perspective. But then if you take the Shiites that are actually dominant in the Saudi Arabia and co, where Sharia is supposed to be there. So sometimes it also comes with that. And then, of course, there's exploitation. People try to exploit these spaces and see what they can do. So suicide bombing. So today you would actually think that suicide bombing is associated with Muslim, but they actually Christians that commit suicide bombing. If you've met Christian fundamentalists, you would find that they are also extreme. So fundamentalism at its core also expresses imperialism. And so it then becomes something that also needs to be watched. That's why religious extremism, I mean, whichever religion it is, doesn't help. You had Jim Jones, I mean, at one point killing thousands of people. That was an expression of religious fundamentalism, that, hey, there's an end coming and we are going to meet the Lord and blah, 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 blah. No application of their cognitive abilities, like, hey, that's it, and this is where we are going, we just follow. And if you don't, it means you are rebellious. And so they will visit violence on you and things like that. And it's, how do you call it, nutatious effects across the length and breadth. And they keep expressing themselves from one time to the other. And that's why I don't like it when people try to, there's a word for it, make it look like, okay, so the word is stereotyping.
Okay.
That Islam means suicide bombing. Christianity means docility. It's more complex than that.
Okay.
And that's why I straddle in between to find that what is common to the extremes is fundamentalism. That's what we have to fight.
Okay. So the one last thing I want to ask you is that what has been your most shocking, discovery in your academics in the Africans Institute?
Shocking. I don't think I've been shocked by anything that I've seen so far. I don't think I have. I mean, initially, I would think about colonialism, imperialism, neocolonialism, how they manifested within slavery and then all of that. I think that one of the things I found fascinating or interesting is how methodical the institution of colonialism had been. That there was actually a theory to it, a method to it. So you take Lord Lucas' works, and it drives into the heart of the matter of what colonialism is and how it's to be, operated upon, the condescension towards the African and the determination to keep the African subdued in order for domination and exploitation that then benefits them. I found that technical detail, to that industry, colonialism, very, very revealing, that the length to which a human being would go to subdue another. I think that's, something that will come close to being surprised. But I went into academia understanding, many of these concepts and these terms and all of that. What academia helped me to do was to engage the texts, the literature, match it against other viewpoints that either counteracted or suggested different perspective. And before we're coming, I was telling you about how we're all caught up on this history of Evers and King Agokoli, and how I came to find by scholars like Yayo that no, the Agokoli story is fiction, because even the manufacture of that rope made of broken glass that was supposed to hurt and injure the people to point out the wickedness of King Agokoli couldn't have been true, because around that time, the glass technology had not been chanced upon and things like that. So there are things like that that fascinates me within the academic world, that, okay, so before I come to a conclusion on any subject, I'm minded to see if there are other perspectives or varying perspectives that come to complicate or not just complicate, maybe clarify, what the real position is. So that's, what I find fascinating within the space, if you ask.
Okay. And what will Ernesto Yeboah tell everybody who is going to watch you and who is going to listen to you? What do you want to tell everybody?
I think that we should never lose confidence in ourselves. We should understand that tribulations and challenges are part of life. But it is not the reason to throw our hands in despair and say, and condemn ourselves and say that, you hear certain expression, oh, black man, black sense. What is that? There's nobody with black sense. We are just subdued. We are just dominated. But that is a phase. And being aware of that subjugation in itself is a turning point. Our children will not go through that subjugation. Our children's children will not go through that subjugation. And in our lifetime, we can actually end that subjugation. We can make life better. We can bring back respect to the black skin. And so that's what I would tell all of us. We should believe in ourselves. We should be happy in ourselves. We should be confident in ourselves, confident in our hair, in our texture, confident in the expression of our language, in the expression of our mind, and in everything that we do. I think that it is that self-confidence that shouldn't be lost on any of us. Once we lose it, we've lost everything. And there must also be a perpetual quest to rediscover ourselves, to find ourselves, and to be able to articulate who we are confidently and unapologetically wherever we find ourselves.
Wow. So today, I've enjoyed another academic, perspective about a lot of the issues I've faced last year, and I'm still dealing with them. And I'm so happy that Ernesto has shared quite a lot. And I believe we'll still be on this journey again. I really want to explore and learn more and unlearn some of the things like you rightly mentioned the story of Ken Agokoli and all the myths that, we've come to accept as real stories. And a lot of these are having some form of negative impact on us and a whole lot. And I think it's about time that we work on our emotions and subdue our emotions and use our head and think and then come with realities and facts that, if it cannot happen now, how did it happen then? And all that, go into it. And I believe that now in our generation, if we don't do this now, our children will come, and I believe it's going to be worse because some of now imagine as an heir being told that your own kin was wicked towards you, having this perception about your identity, it brings some form of hate. And then the Dagomba man hates the Ashanti man because he heard people saying, or he's been told, and it's still not verified, that they were slaves to someone, and a whole lot that needs to be cleared. So I think that, we the youth in this time, we have to open ourselves, learn and unlearn things, and then become better people for our children and for the next generation. If not, I don't think that decolonization of the mind can even work. Because, for instance, if you take Kente, for instance, I don't believe any tribe in Ghana owns Kente, because Kente has been in existence
for technology
for a long time, from whatever century. Do you understand? And if you own the loom, then you own it. But maybe we can own patterns. Like maybe the Ashantis own this pattern, this people own this pattern, this people own this pattern and all that. But the loom, the technology for the kente, the Jews have kente and they put it along. Yeah. If you go to Kenya, they have kente. Nigeria have it. This. So it's about time we tell ourselves the truth. And I'm actually exploring on that kente thing and how finally come out. Like, don't come and tell me a story like you saw Anansi weaving something and then you brought kente. They always say that kente means kanate, spread and press. Like, that's how they came up. All is true, but maybe it's just the pattern. Yeah. Because the Ewe's kente pattern is different from the Ashanti. So history is more complex. You see that? I think that we make it more complex by not even admitting that we saw this and we improved that. There are many sides. You see that? So let's learn. I mean, I'm learning until I get to Israel and realize they were not weaving kente. Or maybe since the Asante says they came from Mesopotamia or whatever, they all came from Israel. Maybe that's where it started from. So that we can get to the bottom. Constant inquiry. Yeah. So I think I unlearn a lot of things about myself, even my tribe, and so many things. And I keep learning. So what I'm saying now, if tomorrow I come and I say another thing, it means I've unlearned certain things and I've learned new things. And I'm using here to think, I want to put my emotions down. So guys, let's be on this journey. It is an amazing one. It's an amazing boom. Yeah, I understood. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to meet you and nice to meet you again. So thank you all, Ernesto. Eva Tasevio. Ebeka